Now, it's a rare but devastating brain condition that can leave patients trapped in their own bodies, aware but unable to walk, talk or eat. It's thought there are only around 100 patients in the world, and most are from the same family line in Cumbria. The doctors in Newcastle discovered it was a new disease caused by a build-up of iron in the brain. And now, led by scientists in Cambridge, the first trial of its kind in the world is about to begin. Here's our health correspondent, Sharon Barber.
Penny was just 17 when her mother was diagnosed with a rare genetic disease. Her mother Liz can no longer eat, walk or speak.
I remember when she ran upstairs and she was crying, and I knew something had happened then, and then it all came from there.
She had a lot of pain in her hands and we went to hospital, accident emergency, and then after that it was just shaking after that, weren't it? Go on. And they just said it's a neurological disease, and they said there were no cure for it.
Soon after Liz was diagnosed, in her late 30s, all three of her sisters were also told they have the disease, including Heather, who, like Liz, can no longer speak.
We'd seen Elizabeth deteriorate, and you just knew that it was going to be life-changing. It's hard to explain. Trying to find the words. You got anything? No. Thanks for the help. Must be frustrating to live in that shell where you...
They're among around 100 patients in the world. Most are from Cumbria. It's being passed through families, and many have been wrongly diagnosed with Parkinson's or Huntington's disease.
But doctors studying the illness and Huntington's disease, which has similar symptoms, have discovered...
Then in 2001, the scientists in Newcastle announced a discovery.
This team of scientists have discovered it's an entirely new disease.
They traced it back to the 18th century in Cockermouth, and as cases were likely to be from the same ancestor, they've even been investigating to see if that relative was Fletcher Christian, known for leading the mutiny on the Bounty in 1789. But they've yet to find that evidence.
So I now knew I had a new disease, and so we then started mapping that disease. So the iron was getting in and it couldn't get out. Because it was a neurodegeneration caused by ferritin, I said let's call it neuroferritinopathy.
Well, it's taken nearly 25 years since that discovery, but now 250 miles away, scientists have come up with a trial that they hope will lead to a possible cure.
The scientists here at Cambridge University have been studying the impact of iron build-up in the patient's brains.
This is a scan from a healthy, normal individual, and you can see here the white shows where the iron is being deposited. And in people who've inherited this genetic change, it's really marked. The white areas here show how much extra iron there is in this part of the brain that controls movement.
And after 10 years...
After 10 years you can see it's much more obvious, but the bit of the brain is starting to cavitate, it's starting to be destroyed by the toxic effects of the iron.
Now they believe they've found a way of drawing that iron out and are trialling deferoprone, a drug already in use on the NHS.
Most important of all, we might be able to give it to people before they develop any symptoms at all.
So a potential cure?
Potential cure.
The trial would cost £1 million, but it's being funded by a medical charity.
This particular drug trial is a real opportunity for us to utilise a drug that we already know is safe and is used quite widely within the NHS already, and see if we can use it in this particular condition to really transform the lives of patients with neuroferritinopathy.
If it works, scientists believe it could pave the way for far bigger medical breakthroughs.
If we can show in this condition that reducing iron stops the nerve cells being damaged, it's not a big jump to suggest that a similar approach might be helpful in Parkinson's disease or Alzheimer's disease.
So some exciting possibilities.
Huge possibilities ahead.
But perhaps the most important thing this, like so many medical trials, offers for patients is hope.
If it just slows it down and she stays as she is, that's a win. She's not going to deteriorate. Other than that, if it can cure it, fantastic, absolutely wonderful. They deserve medals. Sorry. Just means so much, doesn't it?
It means everything, really. I'm excited for my mum, for my auntie, for my uncle, my dad, you know.
And for you?
Yeah.
Cambridge University is now recruiting for the year-long trial to see if deferoprone works. If it does, it's hoped the drug will be approved quickly.
So what do we know about this trial to try and remove the iron from the brain? Well, it's the first of its kind and the first hope for patients where there was none. It's due to start in about a month and the scientists are looking for 40 volunteers to take part. The trial will last around a year and the results should be known in around 18 months. At the end of the trial, if it is successful, regulatory agencies will assess the use of the drug. Now, as deferoprone is already in use by the NHS and deemed safe, the hope is that it will be licensed for use quickly. Scientists at Cambridge have told the BBC that if the trial is positive, they expect it will influence prescribing rapidly. And for patients and their families, and for those who may not even know they've inherited the disease, news of an effective treatment can't come soon enough.
Sharon Barber reporting there, and you can read more from the families of the 4 sisters who spoke about living with this rare brain disease and the work of the scientists on the BBC News website.